Welcome back to another episode of 40 Facts About the 40k Universe. I am your host, Gersh1, and today we're going to be talking about the Ships of Chaos once again as we get into the Plague Fleet. We've already covered the Chariots of Khorne, so the Ships of Khorne. Now we're moving on to Nurgle. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. We post Warhammer 40k lore videos every single day. If you have any suggestions for topics, please comment down below. And if you enjoy our content, don't forget to hit the like button. It really helps out the channel. With that said, let's get into 40 facts on the Plague Fleets. Few vessels conjure as much dread as the putrefied and decaying ships in the service to the Chaos God Nurgle. Known as Plague Fleets, these massive spacefaring vessels are unlike any other ship in the galaxy. Twisted and corrupted by the powers of the warp, they are rotting away just as much as the carcasses of Grandfather Nurgle's followers. Liquefied rust running like blood across their hulls, cankered and broken power supplies, plasma coils and radiation conduits seeping their plasma like pus. Strange tentacle-like appendages sprouting out into space like living beasts. They fill up with thick clouds of revolting, fat-bodied plague flies that hatch from the walls and bulkheads. When the ship lands upon an enemy world, or their crew boards their victim's spacecraft, these seething fly storms come with them, spreading infection wherever they go. Such oddities and decay defines the vessels whose crews serve the Plague Lord. These vessels come from all over the galaxy. Any void-traveling race unlucky enough to succumb to the temptations of Nurgle are welcome in with joyous praise as new chariots of disease and pestilence. There are, however, two very common ships encountered by the Imperium of Man, one being the fallen ships belonging to the Death Guard Traitor Legion, the other the Imperial starships whose crew willingly turn to the worship of the Lord of Pestilence. The most dangerous of the two are the vessels belonging to the Traitor Space Marines, and while many successor chapters in the current millennium can be tricked into the service of Nurgle, the majority of these vessels come from the bygone era of the Horus Heresy in the early 31st millennium. When the Primarch Mortarion made the decision to turn against his father, the Emperor of Mankind, the expeditionary ships of the Legion were the first to get corrupted, thus becoming the first plague ships, or poison ships as they sometimes were called. Many of these expertly crafted vessels were operated by the Adeptus Mechanicus alongside the Death Guard Legion. Most were either frigates or second-line cruisers in classification. They were outfitted to operate alone on deep-range independent missions, and retrofitted to bear the deadliest cargoes, toxic, pathogenic, and viral weaponry. Their new evil tasks were to carry out dark pilgrimages across the stars, conducting raids and visitations, often covertly, on isolated colony worlds, imperial outposts, and linchpin sectors, spreading contagion, contaminating water supplies, and tainting biospheres. Although these attacks were on many worlds to slay millions, not simply by plague and poison, but by civil unrest, famine, and anarchy that would often follow in their wake, their main purpose was not wholesale annihilation. Instead, it was to create panic, to spread fear, to wound and weaken the Imperium ahead of a traitorous advance rather than outright destroy. For a wounded world demanded costly aid and assistance from its allies, whereas a dead world required nothing. For this reason, Exterminatus-class weaponry was rarely employed by the poison ships, but more insidious and subtle agents were instead used, many of them bred and manufactured by the Magos biologists in the War Masters faction, or within the bioweapon vaults and the laboratoria of the dreaded Death Guard world killer, the Mia Donamori, which had been darkly infamous for its stockpiles of such weaponry long before the outbreak of the war. Once the nature and tactic of these poison ships became widely known by the Loyalists, they unsurprisingly became a priority target for destruction, and were hunted down wherever they were encountered. The desire to purge the threat of the poison ships was so great that specific hunter-killer missions were launched against them by several separate Loyalist factions and legions during the Great Scouring, and Terra itself placed a high bounty on the destruction of such vessels, drawing the attention of rogue traders and even unaligned renegades and corsair forces to the task. Not all plague ships were destroyed. Many successfully fled into the Eye of Terror, and furthered their descent into corruption as the God of Decay spread his gifts to these stolen Imperial battleships. It became the duty of the Sixth Plague Company of the Death Guard Traitor Legion to master and garrison all of the Voidcraft that evaded the destruction during the Great Scouring. Known as the Ferrymen, these Plague Marines worked with the Dark Mechanicus to organize the Legion's rotting armadas of vital resources for the now demon Primarch Mortarion. To this day, the Death Guard and many war bands in the service of the God of Decay plow through the Immaterium like like wind-blown contagions, emerging into real space wherever Nurgle wills, spreading Nurgle's blessings to the wider galaxy. And then there are those plague fleets that are made up of the unlucky ship crew that fell to the temptations of chaos, whether they be colonized ships stranded in the void, or corrupted navy captains who handed over the souls of their crewmen. These ships are now in the service of Nurgle, and their mission is to spread the joy of never-ending decay. Sometimes the Lord of Pestilence doesn't always have to try very hard to add a new ship to its fleet. Imperial ships are crammed, claustrophobic places at best of times, and the air which feeds their living crew is a commodity that must be endlessly recycled and filtered back into the vessel. Such lifeless air like this often becomes stale, and the stench of sweat and grime hangs heavy in the air, like a Games Workshop with a bunch of wargamers. Under their mask of filth, Nurgle and his dedicated followers find little difficulty in spreading his diseases through the vessel. Such plagues aboard ships are not uncommon, and Nurgle laughs gleefully at such works. A ship's entire crew may weaken beneath this malady, and in such desperation they will turn to Nurgle for protection. And so a new plague ship is born. Its crew spared the sorrow of death, but instead gifted an eternity beset by the same plague which first laid them low. But decay doesn't merely affect the living. Nurgle beams all the more proudly to see the creations of mortals broken down by decay. The most virulent of these ills do not only strike at the flesh, but also bring with them a noxious, stinging acidic feel to the air, which can sicken even the metal of the warship. Within a small matter of time, the once marvel of human engineering is bursting with rust and filth. It's now property of Nurgle, and its crew becomes a part of the God's Grand Plague Fleet. And those were 40 facts on the Plague Fleet. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and hit the like button if you know the stench of a Games Workshop with a bunch of wargamers in it. Sometimes it doesn't even have to be a Games Workshop. Sometimes it's just inviting friends over and you're just sitting there in your own sweat and filth as your armies are clashing on the battlefield in the tabletop. And then it's just like, oh damn, that smell. That's Nurgle. That's Nurgle smell coming into your nose and caressing the little hairs inside your nose, saying, come worship me. So let's go worship him together. If you guys have suggestions for the next fleet video, let me know what it is in the comment section below. Like I said, we've already done Khorne, so if you want to check out the 40 facts on the Chariots of Khorne, I'll put a link up above. If you guys want Slaanesh or Tzeentch, let me know in the comment section below, and I'll create a video for you guys. Well, whichever one you guys vote for the most is the next one, but I'm going to do all 4. So thanks for listening, and I will talk to you tomorrow. This was Gersh1 with One Mind Syndicate, signing out.
Oh, I used to put my